Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today we want to discuss ASP.NET Core interview question and answers. Uh, Let me go ahead and start it. The first question would be describe the ASP.NET Core. ASP.NET Core is an open source cross-platform and high-performance platform that allow you to build modern and interconnected and cloud-enabled applications. Okay, and with ASP.NET Core, you can build web applications, and IoT apps, services, and mobile backends, and everything runs on .NET Core. And you can do your develop on Linux, Windows, and Mac OS, and deploy a code to like cloud or non-premises. And as you guys, most of you are aware of that, like previous .NET version frameworks, it was not it was not an open source and it was not allowing cross platform also. Now in .NET Core, it's completely open source, and you can do a development on Linux, Windows, and as well as on Mac OS. So this is the one description you guys have to just provide when and someone asks you about what do you mean by the ASP.NET Core and describe it. So let's go ahead and check out the next question. So what are the benefits of using ASP.NET Core over ASP.NET? This is a very important question. So let's see what are all the benefits of .NET Core over the ASP.NET. So ASP.NET Core comes with the following benefits over the ASP.NET. So as I told you, it's a cross platform, provide ability to develop and run on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. ASP.NET Core is open source and unified platform to develop web UI and services, and built-in dependency injections, and ability to deploy one more than one server like IIS kernel, Nginx, Docker, and Apache, etc. And cloud-enabled framework provides support for environment-based configuration systems, and lightweight, high performance, and modern HTTP request pipelines. So well-suited architecture for stability. So integration of many client-side frameworks like Angular version. So Blazor allow you to use C# code in browser with the JavaScript code. So these are all the benefits of using the ASP.NET Core or the ASP.NET. So next question. So what is the role of startup class? Startup class is responsible for configuration related things as below. So it configures the services which are required by the app. So it defines the app request handling pipeline as a series of middleware components. Startup classes are specified inside the create host builder method when the host is created. Multiple startup class can also define for different environments at the runtime. Appropriate startup class is used. So let me go back to like I've created a .NET Core application. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open up the start.cs file. Yeah, guys, you could see here, right? This is starting of your .NET Core application. Yep, that's good. So in the configure method, so this method gets called by the runtime. So use this method to configure HTTP request pipeline. And configure services, this method gets called by the runtime. Use this method to add services to the containers. Yep, this is about the startup.cs file. So let me go back, and that's what the screenshot which I've taken over here. And let me go on to the next question. So what is the role of configure services and configure method? Configure services method is optional and defined inside the startup class as I mentioned in the above code. So it gets called by host before configure method to configure the app services. So configure method is used to add middleware components to the application builder instead that available in configure method. So configure method is also specify how app responds to HTTP request and response. App builder instances use extension method used to add one or more middleware components to the request pipeline. And you can configure the services and middleware components without a startup class and its methods. So by defining this configuration inside the program class in create host builder method. So let's go ahead and see, describe the dependency injection. So this is the most commonly widely asked question. So we just have to explain dependency injection in detail. So let's understand dependency injection in .NET Core. .NET Core dependency injection is a design pattern that's used to use as a technique to achieve the inversion of control between the classes and their dependencies. So ASP.NET Core comes with a built-in dependency injection framework that makes configuration services available throughout the application. So you can configure the services inside the configure services method as below. So you can see a configure services method over here. So inside that you can just go ahead and register like this services.add scoped, That's the one just can go ahead and you can configure the services inside the configure services method as below. The services can be resolved using the constructor injection, and the DI framework is responsible for the instance of the services at runtime. And let me try to give a heads up on dependency injection. So the dependency injection, guys. So this is the one which is mainly used. It controls the object creation for your entire application, right? So when it comes to the basic level, so dependency injection can be done at the like constructor level, property level, or at the method level. So these are these things which are doing before, like in the earlier version of our .NET framework. But later when we're using the not like a 4.5, in that we got like N unit, so Unity container, which is that is a third party tool. So we were using to handle the dependency injection in our application. So after that, so what the .NET Core did, so it has come up with a own dependency injection things. So it will just take care of creation of objects. So just have to explain the same way whatever I explained you. So let's try to understand how our dependency injection solve the problem. So let's try to understand dependency injection with this simple C# class. And a class now user directly dependency injection instance as below. So let's say that we have a class A, and I'm just having my dependency, like creating an object dependency is equal to new my dependency. So I have a method test. So what I have to do, so I just want to create I'm going to call a dep.some method from this test. So my dependency is already created, so object must be created for me, and it should be allowing me to just allow the sub method. So what happens, but these direct dependencies can be problematic for the like some of the reasons. Let's see what are the reasons. If you want to replace my dependency with a different implementation, then the class must be modified. Yes, that is true. Just have to if you want to do the different implementation, you just have to modify the entire class itself. So it's very difficult for user to go ahead and do the unit test. So as a developer, it's very difficult for us just maintain this dependency. It has so many dependencies, right? So say that if your dependency has class as a dependency, that must be configured by the class. Okay, so let's say that if I have an a class, so it has a dependency, so everything whatever we want to do, so we just have to go ahead and do that in a single class, configured by a single class. So that's how it can solve your problems. So if the multiple classes are dependencies on my dependency, then the code becomes scattered. So this is one of the problem. Let's go ahead and see. Okay, we saw that what are all the problems which you can face it. Let me go ahead and see your day framework solves all these problems. So I explained you user interfaces of base class to abstract the dependency infra implementation. Dependencies are registered in the service container provided by the ASP.NET Core inside startup class configure services method. So if you could see here, so all these things which you declare here, so configure services. Here we just take care of registering all the methods and everything. So dependencies are injected using constructor injection, and the instance is created by the dependency injection, and it is destroyed when no longer needed. Yeah, this is the advantages of DF framework, dependency injection framework. Okay, let me go on to the seventh question. So describe the service lifetimes. So when the services are registered, their lifetime for every service, ASP.NET Core provide the following lifetimes. So transient, scoped, and singleton. So these are all the service lifetimes. So when you get a question like this, please explain service lifetimes of .NET Core. Just say these three things: transient, scoped, and singleton. So let's see what is the meaning of transient. Services with the transient lifetime are created each time they are requested from service container. So it's best suited for stateless and lightweight services. So what do you mean by scoped? Scoped services with the scope lifetime are created once per connection or client request. So when using scope service in middleware, then inject the service via invoke or invoke async method. You should not inject the service via constructor injection, as it treats the services behave like a singleton. And singleton is services the singleton lifetime is created once the first time the service is requested. For subsequent requests, the same instance is served by the service container. So it doesn't matter how many subsequent requests you make, but it always returns the same instance by the container, service container. So next question, what you can expect is explain the middleware in ASP.NET Core. So the request handling pipeline is sequence of middleware components where each component performs the operation on request and either calls the next middleware component or terminates the request. When a middleware component terminates a request, it's called terminal middleware, as it prevents the next middleware from processing the request. You can add a middleware component to the pipeline by calling use extension method as below. Let me go and show you that. So you could see here, right? This is the way you can just go ahead and add that. Right? So hope you guys are seeing that piece of code. So middleware component is a program that's built into an ARP pipeline to handle the request and response. Each middleware component can decide whether to pass the request to next component and to perform any operation before and after next component in pipeline. So next question would be, so what is a request delegate? So request delegate handle each HTTP request are used to build request pipeline. So it can configure using run, map, use extension methods. And request delegate can be an inline as an anonymous method, and is called inline middleware or reusable class. These classes or inline methods are middleware components. So what is a host in ASP.NET Core? So host encapsulates all the resources for the app. So on the startup, ASP.NET Core application creates the host and the resources which are encapsulated by the host included HTTP server implementation, dependency injection, configuration, logging, and middleware components. And describe the generic host and web host. So the host setup server request pipeline are responsible for an app startup and lifetime management. There are two hosts in .NET generic host. So ASP.NET Core web host, .NET generic host. So in this recommended and ASP.NET Core template builds in .NET generic host on an app startup. So ASP.NET Core web host is only used for backwards compatibility. So this is for the host creation. You can just go ahead and check it. So if you just look at this create host builder, in that method, it creates a default builder and you can see the configure web host defaults. So what happens is it has a web builder, it uses a startup and you just have to provide the startup class for it. Describe the services in ASP.NET Core. Servers is required to run any application. Yeah, that is true. And ASP.NET Core provides an in-process HTTP server implementation to run the app. The server implementation listens for the HTTP request and surface them to the application as set of request features composed into the HTTP context. ASP.NET Core uses a kernel web server by default. ASP.NET Core comes with default kernel web server. That's a cross-platform HTTP server implementation. So IIS HTTP server, that's an in-process server for IIS. So HTTP.sys server, that is a Windows only HTTP server, and is based on the HTTP.sys kernel driver and HTTP server API. And how configure works in ASP.NET Core. So in ASP.NET Core, configuration is implemented using various configuration providers. Configuration data is present in the form of key value pair, and that can be read by configuration providers as a key value from the different configuration, such as below app settings.json setting file. And Azure Key Vault, environment variable, in-memory.NET objects, command line arguments, and custom providers. So by default, apps are configured to read the configuration data from the app settings.json, environment variables, command line arguments, and etc. While reading the data value comes from the environment variables and override app settings.json data values, create a default builder method provides a default configuration. So you can just go ahead and open app settings.json. Yep, you can just, if you just open that. Yeah, you could see here. So already you have login and the default is information and the Microsoft what we're getting is warning. And we have Microsoft hosting.lifetime, that is the information. So allow host empty store. So let's go to the next question. How to read values from a app setting state.json file. So let's say that we have a class and from the class you just want to read out this app settings.json. So you can read the values from app settings.json just like this, just below. Say that like I have a test and I have a test model test like this is a constructor, and I'm just doing the DIO. So I'm just registering the I configuration. Yeah, we have the object created for this. So let's go back and check this piece of code. So you just have to provide the key and you just have to just provide the complex values. For the key, you just have to just go ahead and do just provide like configuration of key. For the complex values, you just have to go and provide the value like this. This is how you're just going to read the values from app settings.json file. And default configuration provider first loads the value from the app settings.json and then from app settings.environment.json file. So environmental specific values overridden the value from app settings.json file. In development environment, app settings.development.json file values override the app settings.json file values. Same apply to production environment as well. So what is the option pattern in ASP.NET Core? So option pattern allows you to access related configuration settings in strong type ways using some classes. So when you're accessing the configuration settings with the isolated classes, the app should adhere these two principles. In interfaces segregation principles or encapsulations. The class that depend on the configurations and should depend only on the configuration settings they use. So separation of concerns, setting for the different classes should not be related or should not be dependent on each other. How to use multiple environments in the ASP.NET Core. ASP.NET Core uses environment variables to configure application behavior based on the runtime environment. Launch setting.json file sets the ASP.NET Core environment to develop on local machine. How routing works in ASP.NET Core. Routing is used to handle incoming HTTP requests for the app. Routing finds a matching executable endpoint for the income request. These endpoints are registered when app starts. So matching process uses from incoming request URL to process the request. You can configure the routing in middleware pipeline of configure method in startup class. So you can just go ahead and open your startup class. You can just see here app.use routing. So it adds the routing route matching to the middleware pipeline, and this is what you can just go ahead and check this. So how to handle errors in ASP.NET Core? And ASP.NET Core provides a better way to handle the errors in startup class. And you can just open the startup class and it provides you like how the error has been handling in our application. So you can just go ahead and check this. So the environment is development. What is happening? It's just handling use developer exception page. If there is a exception in the application, and it's going to get navigated to the exception page. So that is nothing but a use developer exception page. That one we just have to go ahead and do it in the startup.class. For development environment, developer exception pages display details information about the exception. You should place the middleware before other the middlewares where for which you want to catch the exception. So you have to place the middleware before the other middleware when if you want to just go ahead and catch the exception. For other environment, use exception handle middleware loads the proper error page. You can configure error code specific pages in startup class configure method as below. I'll show you the piece of code. Yeah, this is what you have to do. You just have to go ahead and app.use and just make sure that you just have the piece of code written over there. So that like if you have the status code 403 and just go and display the home and just like forward it back to the error page. And if the status code is 404, just go back and change the request path to not found page. This how this is a piece of code which will help you to do the things which I explained before. And how ASP.NET Core serve static fields. In ASP.NET Core, static files such as CSS files, images, JavaScript files, HTMLs are served directly to the clients. So ASP.NET Core template provides a root folder called www-root, which contains all the static fields. Use static files method inside startup.configure enables the static files to be served to the client. You can serve files outside of this web-root folder by configuring starting file middleware as follows. Just have to just configure just like this. So here what you have to do, just have to go out with the app.use static files and new static file options. Just provide the file provider and new physical file provider and just have to combine the path with the content root path and the request path should be static files. This is requested by the path, the client itself. So now what you have to do, just have to, for an example, if an image and you just have to, can use like that file as like a below image source static files. Say that like you have a static files folder and inside that you have images folder and profile.jpg. So this profile.jpg image inside the my statics or image folder. Explain session and state management in ASP.NET Core. So as we know, HTTP is a status protocol. HTTP requests are independent and does not retain user values. There are different ways to maintain user state between multiple HTTP requests. So one of them is cookies and session state, temp data, query string, hidden fields, HTTP context.items, cache. So these are all the different these are user states where we handle the multiple HTTP requests. And explain the caching or response caching in the ASP.NET Core. Caching significantly improves the performance of an application by reducing the number of calls to the actual data source. It also improves the scalability, and the response caching is the best suited for the data changes infrequently. Caching makes the copy of data and store in generating the data from original source. So response caching headers control the response caching. Response cache attribute sets the caching headers with additional properties. So what is in-memory cache? In-memory cache is the simplest way of caching ASP.NET Core that stores the data in memory on web server. Apps running on multiple servers should ensure that sessions are strictly if they are using in-memory cache. Sticky sessions responsible for to redirect subsequent client request to the same server. In-memory cache can store any object, but a distributed cache only stores byte. In memory cache interfaces instance is the constructor enables the in-memory caching service via ASP.NET Core dependency injection. So what is distributed caching? So application runs on multiple servers. It's called as web forms. Should ensure that sessions are sticky. For non-sticky sessions, cache consistently perform problems can occur. And distributed caching is implemented to avoid the cache consistency issues. It offloads the memory to external process. Distributed caching has certain advantages, just like below. Data is consistent across the client request to multiple servers. Data keeps alive during the server restarts and deployments. Data does not use local memory. So I distributed cache interface instance from any constructor enable distributed caching service via dependency injection. So let's see this one of the very important question. You could expect many interview questions. So what is the XSRF or CSRF? How to prevent cross-site request forgery? Attacks in ASP.NET Core. So cross-site request forgery is an attack where the attacker that acts as a trusted source sends some data to a website and performs some of the actions. An attacker is considered as a trusted source because it is user's authenticated cookie information stored in the browser. And for an example, say that a user visits some stores like some abc.com, then the browser performs some authentication successfully and stores the user information in cookie. So the perform some actions and between users which is some of other malicious sites such as like there could be some bad sites, say that like bad.com. So this site contains some of the code that makes request to vulnerable site and is called cross site for part of CSRF. So how we can just go ahead and prevent that? So in ASP.NET Core 2.0 and actually later reform tag helper automatically inject the anti-forgery token in HTML form element. You can add manually anti-forgery token in HTML forms by using @HTML.antiforgery token. You guys might have observed it, and you guys have you might have used in many enough HTML page, but you guys don't know why exactly we are using anti-forgery token. So this is the reason, is to prevent CSRF, and then you can validate it controlled by validate anti-forgery token method. These two are very important. So how we can just go ahead and use the anti-forgery token in HTML by using @HTML.antiforgery token, and you can validate it by controller by using validate anti-forgery token method. So what is the area? So areas used to divide large ASP.NET MVC application into multiple functional groups. So in general, for large application models, views and controllers are kept in separate folders to separate the functionality. But area in is a MVC structure that separate an application into multiple functional grouping. For example, for an e-commerce site, billing, orders, search functionality can be implemented using different areas. Explain the filters. Filters provide the capability to run the code before or after a specific stage in request processing the pipeline. It could be either MEC app or a web API service. Filters performs the tasks like authorization, caching, implementation, exception handling, etc. ASP.NET Core also provides the option to create custom filters. There are like 5 types of filters supported in ASP.NET Core apps. Let's see what are all the 5 types of filters we do have in MSC Core. So authorization filters, it runs before all or first and determine the users is authorized or not. So this should be the first step. So authorization filter. Resource filters are executed after the authorization. So on resource executing, filter runs the code before the rest of the filter pipeline. On resource executed, runs the code after the rest filter pipeline. So action filters. So it runs the code immediately before and after the action method execution. Action filters can change the arguments passed to the method and can change the return results. So next, what you have? So we do have exception filter it is used to handle exception globally before writing response body. We do have a result filters, allow you to run the code just before or after successful execution of action results. So let's see, describe the ASP.NET Core MEC. ASP.NET Core MEC is a framework to build web application and APIs. It's based on model view controller, and this design pattern separate an application into 3 main concepts known as model, views, and controllers. It also helps you to achieve separation of control design principle. ASP.NET Core MEC is lightweight and open source testable framework to build web application and services. So explain the model, view, and controller. So in AMC.NET, MEC has 3 main group component of model, view, controller. Each one of them has own responsibility. So model, it contains a business logic and represent the state of application. It also performs the operation on data, encapsulates the logic and to persist an application state. It is strongly typed views and use view model pattern to display the data in the view. So view is responsible to prevent content via user interface. It doesn't contain the much logic, and it uses the Razor View engine to embed .NET code into views. If you need to perform much logic to display the data, then perform to use view components, view model, and view template for simply controllers. It's responsible to handle user interaction. It works with the model and select view to display. Control is the main entry point that decides the model which it works and decides which view it needs to display. Hence, its name, and the controller means controller user input and interactions. So usually controller acts as a middleware between the view and the model. Already I have explained in my previous video what does how you can go ahead and create a models, views, and controllers in my previous video. If you guys don't know how you can just do that, please watch my previous video so that you'll come to know what is exactly and how we can just create controllers, views, and models in our usual normal ASP.NET MVC application. So let's try, I'll try to explain what is view model. So next question would be explain view model. So view model is used to pass complex data from controller to view. View models data represented from a different models that pass to view to display the data. For example, a complex data model can be passed with the help of a view model. Okay, so you can just see here. So I have just author and book data can it can be used inside the controller as a view model. You could see here. So what I have a class. So I have 2 properties. Say that like public string name and public string publisher name. So if you could look at the author, I have 2 properties defined over there. So one is a public linked ID and public book. So book is nothing but that is a type, that's a class type. So which you have you're just using in author class. Explain strongly typed views. Strongly typed views are tightly bound to the model. For example, in above question, if you want to pass the author data to the view, then you need to write a piece of code for type checking in your view. At model author, a controller can pass strongly typed model to view that enables type checking and intelligence in supporting view. Explain model binding in ASP.NET Core. So what is model binding? Controllers and Razor pages work with data that comes from HTTP request. For example, route data may provide a record key and posted from fields may provide a values for the properties of the model. Writing code to retrieve each of these values and convert them from string to .NET types would be very tedious and error prone. So model binding automates this process, this model binding system. So retrieves the data from various sources such as the row data, form fields, and query strings, provides the data to controllers and raises pages in method parameters and public properties. So convert string data into .NET types. So updates properties of complex types. So custom model binding in ASP.NET Core. So model binding allows controller actions to work directly with the model types. So passed in as a method arguments rather than HTTP request. Mapping between incoming request data and application model is handled by the model binders. Developers can extend the built-in model binding functionality by implementing custom model binders. So next question would be describe model validation. So validations are available inside the system.component model.data annotations namespace. So validation attributes let us to specify validation rules for the model properties. Model state represents error that comes from two subsystems, model binding and model validations. So let's see what are the different validations which is available. So say that like attribute, if you're just using attribute, so actually this validates the property as a credit format. And if you're using attribute compare, this attribute validates two property in model class, match like password and compare password, email address. So this validates the email address, phone, it validates the phone, and range. If you are like, if it validates the property value with specific range, and regular expression. If you are just putting some regular expression, it matches to check with that particular expression. And required, it's saying that this field should not be null. And string length, which is something like you just can specify what should the length of the string. And URL, this validates the property as URL format. And remote, this validate input on the client by calling an action method on server. So custom ASP.NET Core middleware. So what is custom ASP.NET Core middleware? Middleware is a software that assembles into an app pipeline to handle requests and responses. So ASP.NET Core provides a rich set of built-in middleware components, but in some scenario, you might have to write a custom middleware. A middleware is generally encapsulated in class and exposed with an extension method. Consider the following middleware, which sets the culture for the current request from the query string. So the next question would be how to access HTTP context in ASP.NET Core. So what is HTTP context? It holds the current information about the HTTP request. So it contains information like authentication, authorization, request, response, session, items, users, form options, etc. So every HTTP request creates a new object of HTTP context with the current information. And how we can just go ahead and access HTTP context in controller. Controller exposes the control base.http context property, so we can directly access HTTP context property from the current HTTP request. The best practices is always to access HTTP context through the DI, which default implementation of HTTP context accesses. So, I mean, there's one more way we can access the HTTP context. So how to access HTTP context in services? So in ASP.NET Core, if we need to access HTTP context in service, we can do like with the help of iHTTP context access interface and its default implementation of HTTP context accessor. It is only necessary to add the dependency if you want to access the HTTP context in service. To use HTTP context service, we need to do the following two steps. First step would be you just have to register dependency using .NET Core built-in dependency injection container as below in startup.cs, and this should be in the class of configuration service method. Yeah, what you have to just add this method. You could see here. So services dot add HTTP context accessors. You just have to go ahead and register like this. And next, inject iHTTP context accessor into the created web service constructor and access the properties of HTTP context as below. You could see here, right? So I have a class user service. So I'm just like in the user service, I'm registering whatever the things which are registered in startup class. I'm just going to create a property, read-only property, HTTP context accessor, and just going to register in the constructor. You could see here it has been injected here. So your service HTTP context accessor, and you just have to create a private variable and whatever the value which you're getting, it just go back and assign back to that. So next question would be, what is the meaning of change token? And change token is a general purpose and it's a low level building block used to track the state changes. So this is something you can expect frequently. What do you mean by the change token? You can just explain them. It's a kind of a building block, and its main purpose is to track this there is any change, state changes in the application. So let's see what is the open web interface for .NET Woven. So that is a woven open web interface for .NET. It's a standard for interface between .NET web application and web servers. It's a community-owned, no, so it's open source project. ASP.NET Core supports the open web interface for .NET, that is Owen, and which allows apps to be decoupled from the web servers. Describe the URL rewriting middleware in ASP.NET Core. This in this one, you can in this slide you can just it introduces the URL rewriting with the complete instructions on how we can just use the URL rewriting in the middleware in ASP.NET Core applications. So as its name suggests, URL rewriting is the act of modifying request URL based on one or more predefined rules. So URL rewriting creates an abstraction between the resources locations and their addresses so that locations and addresses are tightly linked. URL rewriting is valuable in several scenarios. So you could just see here, and these are the scenarios. We can just go ahead and just check it. So move or replace servers resources temporarily or permanently, and maintain stable locations for those services. Split request processing across different apps or across areas of one app. Remove, add, recognize URL segments on incoming request. Optimize the public URLs for search engine optimization. So permit the use of friendly public URLs to help the visitor to predict the content written by the requesting resource. So it redirect insecure requests to secure endpoints, preventing hot linking, whether external site use uh, hosted static assets on another site by linking the asset into the own content. So let's go to the next question. Describe the application model in ASP.NET Core. ASP.NET Core MEC defines an application model representing the component of MEC app. Read and manipulate this model to modify how MEC elements behave. By default, MEC follows certain conventions to determine which classes are considered controllers, which methods on the host classes are actions, and how parameters are and routings behave. So customizing this behavior to suit an app needs by creating customer conventions and apply them to the globally. So this is what the explanation. You can just expect like what describe the application model in ASP.NET Core. How to prevent cross-site scripting in ASP.NET Core. Cross-site scripting XSS is a security vulnerability which enables an attacker to place a client-side script, usually it's a JavaScript, into web pages. When other user load affect pages, the attacker scripts will run, enabling the attacker to steal the cookies and session tokens, change the content of their pages through DOM manipulation and or redirect browser to the another pages. Access vulnerabilities generally occurs when the application takes user inputs and outputs it to a page without validating or encoding, or you can say escaping it. So let's work how to enable CORS in the ASP.NET Core. To work with CORS in ASP.NET Core, so these are some of the steps we just need to follow. Install the CORS middleware, add the CORS middleware to the pipeline in the configure service method, enable CORS in the configuration method, enable CORS in the controller, and the action methods are globally. Describe the view components in ASP.NET Core. A view component consists of two parts: the class, typically given from the view component, and the result it returns, and usually it's a typical view. So unlike controllers, a view component can be a POCO, but most developers will want to take advantages of methods and properties available by deriving from view component. So how view compilation works in ASP.NET Core. So enables runtime compilation at the project creation. This option is supported in ASP.NET Core 3.1 or later. Yeah, so in the create new ASP.NET Core application, select what you have to do. Just have to go ahead, select web application or the web application model view controller project template. Select the enable Razor runtime compilation checkbox. So this is going to just it enables you the runtime compilation of the project time creation. Okay, this is the one of the, I mean, guys, I try to capture all the interview questions with respect to ASP.NET Core. And if you guys if you guys have faced any new questions during your interview time, you guys are welcome, and just let us know the questions. We'll try to give we'll just try to provide a explanation on the questions. And also you could expect some of the basic questions like I'll try to provide you what could be the expected basic questions. So first question would be, rate yourself on .NET Core. You just have to think wisely and give a rating. So because if you if the interview is asking you to provide uh, out of 5, if you're saying 4.5 or 4, it should be, I mean, you should know where you stand. So be very careful while writing yourself. So I would always suggest, whoever is a beginner, just provide 3.5 out of 5, so that you can also mention that you are just a beginner of the .NET Core and you are what the rating of yours. Since you are the learning, so you have to be honest while taking the interviews. And yeah, next question would be, just introduce about yourself. Just try to brief about about your school, like college, and all the education details. And next, you can come back to your uh, the project details, and always try to explain the recent projects. So don't go like beyond over very old projects. So just try to give explanation on the current project which you guys working on. And yeah, this is, I mean, one of the things which I have to remember when trying to answer it. So I mean, if you guys by chance, if you don't know a particular thing, a particular answer, you can just honestly say that, I mean, you are like not aware of it. So instead of just bluffing around, because interview will come to know if you keep on saying something and all, so it's not a good sign. So if you're not sure and if you're not clear about something, so please just pass on the question to the interview. Okay, so these are all my inputs for your interviews. So hope this video will help you guys. And yeah, keep watching, keep supporting. So I'll be providing our Telegram channel and YouTube channel link. Just please subscribe to it, and I'll be coming up with a new videos. I have like my plans on .NET Core, and as well as Web API, and like Angular, and I already started with ASP.NET MVC. Yeah, please go through all of it, and thank you so much, guys. Keep supporting us. So fine, see you soon. Please prepare all this question. I have one more things to say, and see what are all I explained over here. Like I try to give you all the possible questions and possible answers. You can just go ahead and tell to them. And at the same time, say for example, like I have 41 questions. Please go ahead and just type it in the Google, and you'll get a lot of like even more answers on these questions. So try to get more information, and keep getting knowledge, and happy coding, guys. Fine, and all the best for your interviews. Fine, guys. See you. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.